Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Coming up in just a little bit, Damien Woody, our big man, outstanding ESPN insider, will join us to talk about the AFC and NFC championship games. 9 o'clock hour, Adrian Wojnarowski will join us, our NBA insider, to talk more about the breach.
Breachgate.
And what happens now going forward for the Rockets players who found their way into the Clippers locker room after a heated loss in Chris Paul's return a couple of nights ago. And then really, really excited to have John back with us.
Yeah.
John Gruden will join us in 9:30 Eastern
First time as the officially
head coach of the Raiders.
Yeah.
He pretty much put it out there that he was going to be when he joined us last week, but we're happy that John's going to be with us again. I always like to hear coaches talk about the pull, how much the pull of coming back and doing it means to them.
Strong.
And doing the draft with John these last few years, you go down there and you watch tape with him. No one's going to dive deeper into tape study than John. I mean, his facility down there, the Fired Football FFCA Coaches Association. I mean, it's nothing but a giant warehouse of tape that we go back and watch.
Well, I'm sure he'll work the draft with you again this year.
Yeah, probably. we just hope to have him as a guest.
Right.
We're gonna. I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna book him.
There you go.
When he comes on the show, we're gonna book John as a guest. So, we love hanging out with John. And you know what else is true? People apparently like hanging out with dogs.
Yes, they do. Great article out. Most dog owners would rather hang out with their pets than people.
That's fair.
And a big survey that's done, a study of 2,000 dog owners, found skipping out on human commitments specifically to get a bit of quality furry friend time is commonplace. I know we do that. We'll skip social events because want to be around the dogs, or won't go places at times because you think of the dogs first before you think of where you're going to go.
Right.
I mean, listen, to me, I don't think there's anything more loyal than a dog. I know you're a dog person.
You got 2 dogs?
I'm a dog person.
You have 3, right?
I have 3 dogs right now, yes. Yeah.
Schefter, I think, has 47. I mean, it's amazing.
47?
Well, I think he has 6 or 7. Whenever we do a live shot with him on NFL Live when he's in his studio, literally you can hear the dogs in the back. And he has, like, Bichon Francais. He has the fancy dogs.
Yeah. And 55% of people taking the survey say it's the unconditional love that's the biggest benefit. There are dogs I like way more than humans. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And as far as a relationship concerned, it's interesting. 80% of people said it would be a deal breaker if the romantic partner did not like their pet.
Yeah. And
wait, you don't like Fido? See ya.
See you later. I've been with him longer.
Yeah. You're going to have to choose between the dog and me.
I choose the dog.
See ya.
I have a saying, the longer I live, the less I like people.
Yeah.
So dogs go better. According to the study, 82% of dog owners notice an improvement in their mental and emotional health thanks to their 4-legged friends.
I mean, you have the therapy dogs, our friends, the Perianos. Yep. Their dogs, Alexis, she would breed the dog. That's how we got a couple of our dogs. Oscar and Murray they have, but she takes them to the classes. They become therapy dogs where they'll go into, either schools or hospitals, and, people are just soothed by pets. How about this story? I saw on Twitter, my wife had retweeted it. Kathleen is a dog that had a great home for the last 6 years, but the family moved away. So she was a dog with this family for 6 years. The family had to move away, and where they were going, they couldn't take the dog. They were heartbroken, but they just couldn't take the dog with them. So they ended up giving him to a family. A family adopted the dog who lived 20 miles away from the house they moved from.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
2 times.
The dog
home? Broke out, walked the 20 miles to the house where it was with that family, and sat on the porch waiting for them to come home.
My goodness. That's fantastic.
Not once, but twice. So the family that lived, who the new owners of the dog said, we can't secure the dog enough to have him not do that. So she ended up going with another owner, and it's in another state, and all is good. The dog is very happy and stuff. But how about that? Broke out twice, walked 20 miles 2 times, stood on the porch of the old house that she lived in, and waited for the people to come home.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that is that's
actually really cool. Amazing.
We
have 2 dogs now. We had one that we lost him when he was 6. His name was Calvin. He was a giant black lab. He was over 100 pounds. I mean, he had a chest that would have made Larry Allen proud. Okay? He could bench press a few pounds. Calvin could. But at our old house, a couple of times you had to drive me home there when we were doing NFL Live together, and there were car issues. We had a big rock on our front yard. The area was called Stony Corners, and like every house had a giant boulder in the front yard, so that's why it was called Stony Corners. Calvin would sit on that rock. Yeah. And he would just sit there and wait for people to drive by or say hi, or that's where he would wait when we put him outside with the invisible fence. Right. He would just sit on that rock, and we'd pull into the driveway, and there would be Calvin sitting on that rock.
It's waiting. It's unconditional, man.
It's the best.
Just unconditional. So great.
You have a bad day, something go home and work, just go down and lie down with the dog.
Yeah.
Lie down with the dog, and they'll just put their face up next to yours, and it's the best.
They said 6 out of 10 people taking the survey said they would tell their dogs things they wouldn't tell anybody else, as kind of therapy. Yeah.
Dogs will keep the secret.
Yes, they will.
Dogs will keep the secret.
They will.
They say you need to unburden yourself.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Talk to the dog. Uh-huh. The dog will be there with you. The dog will be there. You have 3 dogs now.
3 dogs.
Yeah, I have 2.
Tahoe is 13 and a couple of pugs. Hank is 7, and Harry is 1. Yeah. He's got a little bit of the devil in him.
Is he exacerbating the older dogs?
Yeah, he is, Yeah, Hank's like, why in the hell do we have to have this dog here? Because all he does is chase me all the time. He's an exuberant 1-year-old.
Yeah, we have our 2 dogs, and they're big labs, and then our next door neighbors have tiny dogs, and sometimes we'll go out in the tiny like,
yeah,
and our dogs will just like, what's happening?
Yeah, what are you?
One of our neighbors has a chocolate lab that's just over a year, maybe 2, and she has a lot of energy. Yeah. So whenever we're walking our dogs, and that dog would come up, our dogs will be like, really? Okay. Please, can this stop now?
Calm down.
This stop? Because Morley will bounce and do all this kind of stuff, and she is ready to go. And our dogs are just like, can we just do our business? Can we just do what we have to do?
Bottom line is we all love dogs.
Yeah.
And most of the time we love them more than humans.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. So we could do this all day, but I'm told we need to move on to This is important. We move on now to what's trending. Stanzik clearly doesn't have dogs. And
no, he does
people.
not.
He's a horrible human being. This was all his idea. Do you have dogs, Stanzik? You have dogs?
Currently, no. I did growing up.
No, see, I knew it. When was the last time you actually had a dog?
A decade.
See, this is why you're a terrible human being.
That's why you're just
This is why you're awful.
I gave you 7.5 minutes to talk about your dogs. That was
and you know what? People are grateful for that 7.5 minutes.
We could take another
Put
13.
it out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Did we talk enough about dogs, or would you like to have more on dogs? Or are you team Golic and Wingo pro dog? Or are you team Stanzik the devil who hates dogs?
The devil is
Put
right.
it out there on Twitter. And let's see what America decides, my bearded friend.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to Stanzik Sports because he doesn't like dogs. Yeah. My God, you are the worst. Just so you know.
There you go.
We love you.
You said
here we go. That's important. You asked for it, baby. Stanford running back Bryce Love announced he's returning to school for his senior season. A player returning to school that's produced like Love is really unprecedented.
Yeah, he is. He's the first player in FBS history to rush for at least 2,000 yards and then go back to school the following season. One of the big things for him, and people have different reasons for why they want to go back, but one thing that certainly will help him, especially, and he was number 20th ranked player on Mel's big board, but behind a couple of other running backs, and most notably Saquon Barkley, the best back in the draft right now. The big thing for Love, over 2,100 yards rushing, but just 6 receptions. So that's part of the game that this offseason he needs to spend a big chunk of time working on and get that incorporated into his offense. It certainly would help the team a hell of a lot to get him the ball in open space. So I think that's one of the big improvements we'll see out of Mr. Love.
My only concern here is that, he carried 263
times.
Those running backs, those miles add up, and listen, everybody should be in college as long as they want. Right. I could have stayed for 7 years. Yeah. I really could have.
We got kicked to the curb. Exactly. Kicked out. Gotta go.
You gots to go.
You gotta go.
But especially at the farm, Stanford, how would you not want to be there? I totally understand that. My only concern at the next level is the wear and tear of another year of producing like that, especially at that position, which historically is the shortest lifespan in the NFL. So, listen, we wish Bryce all the best. I'd stay at Stanford, too. They'd have to kick me out, but he is going back for another year. Also, what's trending is Anthony Davis is really good at basketball. 45 points and 16 boards Tuesday as the Pelicans won to snap the Celtics' 7-game winning streak.
Back-to-back, and both on the road of going 45-plus and 15-plus. that, as far as on the road, he's only the third player to do it on the road. Bob McAdoo did it in March of '75, and Wilt Chamberlain did it more than a dozen times. Again, Wilt just proving he needs his own record book. 7 players overall have done it other than Anthony Davis. 6 players other than Anthony Davis. They're all in the Hall of Fame, the likes of Charles Barkley, Elgin Baylor, Walt Bellamy, Wilt, Moses Malone, Bob McAdoo. So, yeah, he's a fantastic player. To me, the biggest question for him is, when does he end up on another team?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd love to
ask Woj that.
Yeah, I mean, between him and when Boogie Cousins got there, he thought, okay, could they twin tower this thing, and could they build something with the size, even though the game today has it away from the basket a little bit more. And so I don't think that how they have it set up right now is going to take them where they want to go. So you just wonder if Davis will end up on another team. Remember, we feel like we've been talking about him for years. He's 24.
It's crazy, right?
24 years old.
It's unbelievable. And by the way, my favorite thing about that stat, 45 and 15 in back-to-back road games, Bob McAdoo in 1975, and Wilt Chamberlain with this caveat more than a dozen times.
Yeah, so we just proved another time here.
Yeah.
If you're not listening to me, I just said that 30 seconds ago.
I did, but I wanted to emphasize it. I was still so upset about Stanzik. By the way, we put it up in the poll. It's 100% that. It's not 76%. With a lot of votes, we're winning.
Yeah,
we are winning.
That's too
Stanzik
easy.
is going to be kicked to the curb.
Way too easy.
We're looking for a new producer.
Mm-hmm.
Send in your resume. And how about this? We talked a lot about what the Bills Mafia did, donating to Andy Dalton's foundation when his touchdown pass put them in the playoffs,
right?
As they beat the Ravens. How about this? More than 100 Bengals fans have now donated close to $5,000 since the Jaguars beat the Steelers, one of Cincy's biggest rivals, on Sunday. According to the foundation, Blake Bortles Foundation, Cincinnati radio host Mo Eggers, who works on ESPN Radio there, and I've done his show, does a great job, encouraged Bengals fans to donate as a way to pay it forward after the Bills fans had done so much to Andy Dalton's foundation.
You love it when
cool.
things that are happening on the field are translating into donations that are helping great causes. So just like when we had Lane Johnson on with the whole dog mask thing, and they have a shirt where they've raised in less than 24 hours $56,000. So that could be the best part of obviously all of this.
Yeah, it's nice to see that catching on, as maybe part of this. Hey, you guys did something good for our team. Let's help you out. So congratulations to them. And good job by Mo Egger, who getting that started, who does a really good job, by the way, in Cincinnati. And I've been on his show a bunch. I'm sure you have as well.
Yes.
So that is something good that's happening, and hopefully something good will come out of this horrible story that is going on again in Michigan right now. It's day 2 of a 4-day sentencing hearing for Larry Nassar. Prosecutors expect 98 women to speak or submit written statements this week. Nassar, 54, a long time working with the U.S. Olympic team in gymnastics, has already pled guilty to 10 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. The Michigan Attorney General's office has asked for another 40 to 125 years for his sexual abuse of young girls. Nassar has already been sentenced to 60 years in federal prison on child pornography charges. The crimes are horrific. The fact that this went on so long is awful. The number of people's lives that have been ruined is absolutely devastating. Many of them well-known gymnasts that we have celebrated over the years. Michaela Maroney, one of them. Allie Raceman was one of them, and she appeared on Outside the Lines and talked about the process and what this has meant to her.
I told my mom, and then we told USA Gymnastics, and to me it seemed like they threatened me to be quiet. Their biggest priority from the beginning and still today is their reputation, the medals they win, and the money they make off of us. I don't think that they care. If they cared, then the second they realized that I was abused, they would have reached out, asked if I needed therapy, asked if I was okay, asked what they could have done, and they would have made a big change. Instead, they allowed Larry to continue to work on little girls in Michigan and molest gymnasts for a very long time. And that's just, I don't know how they sleep at night. I'm so angry that after realizing that we were abused, they let him continue to molest other gymnasts. When they told me there was an investigation going on, they told me to be quiet. And I thought that they were doing the right thing, and I didn't want to tip off the investigation. I trusted them, and I shouldn't have.
More to those comments, when you hear them, they're just startling. Allie also added, USA Gymnastics just said, we're handling this, we got this, stop asking us questions, don't talk about it because you're tip off the investigation, so I didn't want to jeopardize anything. Come to find out, they didn't report it right away.
It's a horrific situation when you hear that some of the youngest victims were 6 years old. You can't fathom that. And let's remember that, and just like the Penn State situation, that when you started looking at who knew what went in the tentacles of that, just remember the epicenter.
Yep.
There was Jerry Sandusky, and here it's Larry Nassar. So you start there.
Well, he's going away forever, and
you'll never see him again. But let's start there saying he is the dirtbag scumbag that did all this. And as I said before, I don't know how he's walking the face of the earth right now with what he's done and the amount of people that have known that. It sickens me. But going forward, I mean, I look at the totality of this. I was in a situation with my daughter Sydney. She was in a sport like gymnastics that you start very young. If you're going to be really good, a lot of times you start very young.
Right.
She was 6 years old when she started competitively swimming, and my wife and I gave her to a coach until she was 18, until she went to college. And Sid was good, especially early on, where she was making national meets, 11, 12 years old.
So there's a lot of travel.
So there's travel involved, and this one, and I say it was Rob Riccabon. I've mentioned his name on air before, and I mentioned because this guy was fantastic. He's a great coach to Sydney and the other team members, but a great person as well. Great person. He and his wife, and he has 2 kids as well that are swimming, but we couldn't have been happier with how Sydney was treated. But what you do is that's what you do as a parent, especially if your kids have dreams, and in gymnastics, that's what you do. At a young age, you have a dream, and a parent entrusts grown-ups to help their child with their dream. And then when that trust is shattered, I mean, where do you go? And then you get to the point of, okay, now it's shattered. This happened to my kid. Wait a minute. Who knew about it?
Right.
Wait a minute. Who told us to keep quiet about it? Hold on. Wait, this was reported to the police and they did nothing about it?
And again, one of the reasons that you get that number for 125 years, that's 1 year for every police report that was filed here.
And to sit here and say it needs to be cleaned up, listen, I get it. But the problem is no matter any system you have, there's human beings running the system. And unfortunately, we find out there's a lot of dirtbags out there who care more about their reputation, the almighty dollar, or that gold medal that people are striving for, and obviously so they don't get in trouble as well. So keep this quiet. So I don't know where this is going to go, but lawsuits are out there against the gymnastics, against Michigan State and others as well. So I don't know where it goes, but I don't know how people that knew about this and did nothing can look in the mirror. But I guess somehow, some way they can. Somehow, some way they justify it, which my blood can't boil anymore at that because we're talking about kids here. Kids who trust you as parents, who then trust you as coaches, put it all in you to help get you where you want to go. And that trust is just shattered to the point of where some of the young women are killing themselves because of this. I don't even know where to go with it. I'd be so angry to try and be calm and have a calm situation about it. I couldn't be in the same room as that guy. And as you said, he's going to jail forever. And I don't want to even say what I hope goes on. I don't even want to go down that road. But I think you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
But where does this go? Who is held responsible for it? And if you can be by law held responsible or by school, if that happens to be where it goes, and I don't know where it's going to go, I hope people get hammered. If they can, I hope they get hammered for it. And for those that can't, and you didn't do something when you could, I don't know how you look at yourself in the mirror.
Well,
I don't know how that happens.
That's what Allie was saying, and you brought up swimming. Swimming just went through this.
Yes, they did.
I mean, last year,
yep.
I believe, we had the swimming scandal. So it's unfortunately, this is not the first time we've been down this road.
It's not.
With some of these Olympic events.
It's amazing to me at what people think trumps kids.
Yeah.
Trumps, nothing should, and yet let's keep that quiet. Let's not bring this up. Well, are you really telling the truth? Did this really happen? And again, it's not one or two. We're talking in the hundreds of reports that have gone out. I blows my mind to think that this could just keep going over and over and over again.
And you hope with everything that you have that's the outcome that can be looked at as positive when all this is laid to rest. Look, nothing is ever going to be perfect. We understand that.
It's not.
Human beings are involved, so on a lot of levels there will always be some failures. but what can we put in place to make sure things don't go unchecked? The dots aren't connected for this long to have this happen to this many young women and girls the next time around. That's the entire thing that needs to be the focus going forward. What happened? Who can be held responsible? And how do we make sure that those failures are not repeated going forward? And again, this is part of that 4-day sentencing hearing that's going on in Michigan. All right, coming up, we will shift our focus to Conference Championship Sunday, and we'll have a Super Bowl champion in here who might need some help fitting his Super Bowl ring through the door. It's a big, bright one. Sorry.
Whatever. Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, but the big man, Damien Woody, joins us in studio, our NFL analyst, giving you the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Before we get into Championship Sunday, which I believe is the single greatest day of the year, don't you? One day, better than the Super Bowl.
Boy, it can be a painful one. I've had a couple painful ones, but I would agree.
Whatever. Okay. Are you wearing any Super Bowl rings?
Since you brought that up.
Yeah, okay.
It's nice. And it's very shiny.
Sorry it was so painful for you when it didn't go well in the AFC Championship game. Oh, my heart bleeds for you.
We want to ask you this question. You're a dog person, right?
I am.
How many dogs do you have now?
5.
5. And you just got 2 more. You were talked into 2 more?
Yeah, I was coerced into 2 more.
Yeah.
So now the total is 5.
Okay, because we have a running feud with our producer, the bearded wonder.
Stanzik doesn't like dogs.
He's a dog hater.
Yeah.
And
really? Doesn't like them.
He was upset.
Damien, that's not true.
I don't know if I can trust a guy.
I'm with you.
Who doesn't like dogs.
Completely agree.
I saw him kick a dog last week.
Oh no, that's
not true.
Is that true?
No, that's not true. That is not.
That never happened, Damien.
That is not true. But
we are looking for a new producer.
We are. Send your resumes to
not a lot of applicants. Huh?
Send your resumes to Dan Stanzik at ESPN.com. He'll review them for his replacement. But we spent the start of this hour talking about this story that came out that most dog owners would rather hang out with their dogs than people. And we went on, we were sharing our stories, and Stanzik gets in here, it's 7.5 minutes. That's enough on the dogs. So we put it out there on Twitter. Are you Team Dan or Team Dog? And Team Dog is slaughtering him right now.
Who doesn't love talking about their dogs?
Yeah, see, when you're around people,
yeah,
people always want to talk about like their problems, and I don't want to hear any of that.
No,
like,
exactly
I just want to just kick back, chill, hang out. My dog is loyal to me to the end.
Yeah, and
to the very
you know
end.
what? You can tell your dog your problems, and you're not going to say anything back.
He's not going to say anything back.
Nothing.
Yeah. I'm going to get nothing but love in return.
Exactly. So, again, send in those resumes to Dan Stanzik at ESPN.com. Looking for a new producer. Or we're going to make him adopt 5 dogs.
Yes, that's exactly right.
We're going to make Stanzik adopt 5 dogs. Speaking of dogs, there has been one team that has been playing that underdog card.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be the Philadelphia Eagles. They are once again going to be an underdog at home as the number 1 seed, which is bizarre and ridiculous and all that kind of stuff. How much do you think, though, that kind of fuels people's fire? Look, I don't think you guys were ever the underdog in New England. Well, no, you were against the Rams. You were in that Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they were in that Super Bowl.
Yep.
You were clearly the underdog there.
Yes.
How much did you guys use that as motivation?
Oh, it was played throughout the week because you got that whole week. All we kept hearing was the Rams were out all week, all night down in the French Quarter partying because the game was in New Orleans, obviously. And they had beaten us during the regular season
14-7 in
Foxborough. It was
Sunday
a close game. It was kind of a bloodbath type of game. So we knew it was cold that game. We knew if we saw them again, we felt like we could beat them. But clearly Vegas and everybody else didn't believe that we could beat them. I think we were like 13-point underdogs or something like that. So we just kept playing. That was a theme the whole week. And obviously we came out on time.
People always say, why do the players need extra motivation, especially in any game, let alone a championship game? Shouldn't they already be motivated enough by trying to get to the Super Bowl? I try to explain why it certainly can help, but you lived it. You were there in how it can boost your team.
Well, who likes to get disrespected?
I do. I enjoy it on a daily basis. Yeah. He does it to me every day, and I show up every morning.
Honestly, like, who likes to be disrespected? Who likes for everyone out there to tell you that they're better than you, that you basically have no chance of beating the opponent? No man wants to get disrespected like that. So, all of a sudden that plays into your ego. Wait a minute, I'm a professional like he's a professional. I put my pads on like he put his pads on. So, yeah. So when you hear that type of noise, yeah, it's going to motivate you to want out there and go get it done.
Yeah, Damien Woody with us. Doug Peterson, the head coach, has embraced that. I mean, he stood up at the podium after that game and said, how long has Carson Wentz been out? A month? They've had to put up with you guys sitting there for a month telling them they don't have a chance. I'll go to war with every one of those guys. And they must love that in the locker room.
There's nothing, quite honestly,
better.
There's nothing better when the players can rally amongst themselves and say the outside world is against us right now. Let's all huddle together.
It is. It's like with Philadelphia. It's like Philadelphia versus everybody.
Yep.
That's really their. They really could make a shirt about that. Philly versus everybody, because it seems like every week most people are picking the opponent over Philly, and they're just eating it up right now. They'll eat it up all the way to the Super Bowl.
So let's look at that game for a moment, especially an area where people need to watch. And again, it's not the sexy part of the game, but you play basically all positions on the O-line. But go back to the interior part of your career, the guard and center time. And now as that Minnesota offensive line is getting ready for a young man named Fletcher Cox.
Oof.
You have the Aaron Donald, who is the lighter, quick version, and then you have Fletcher Cox, who will just mow you down, and he's so good. So talk about preparing for a guy like that. Listen, you're confident as a player, I get it, but man, one of the best is coming in.
Well, throughout the week, you're breaking down tape and you're watching all these games of that particular opponent. So I'm sure the Minnesota guys have seen clip after clip after clip of Fletcher Cox just tossing people, mowing over people. So in your mind, it's like, boy, I better bring my A game, because I'm not trying to be on his highlight reel, because that's the type of player that Fletcher Cox is. Like, he can embarrass you out there. So everyone wants to talk about the quarterbacks and all those type of things.
The shiny objects,
the flashy things. But I always say, when we get to this when we get to this time of year, the trenches is where it's at. Those teams that have made it to this point have some of the best O-lines, D-lines in the National Football League, and it's no coincidence that they're sitting right here at this point in time.
And that's the amazing thing about Minnesota, is what was their biggest weakness last year? It was their offensive line. They have done an amazing job in revamping that. And to your point, especially about the offensive line, look, our sons both were offensive linemen, so we love the big uglies, okay? Last year's Super Bowl was the Falcons and the Patriots. They were the two teams that had the most snaps together with their 5 starters on the offensive line. So the quarterbacks and the receivers, look at the shiny toys, and they run around, do wonderful things. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that unit working together, you have no chance. And that's what's amazing about both of these teams, okay? Because you have the Vikings, who have rebuilt their offensive line in 1 year. By the way, that one block that Riley Reef had on that one play where he just torched somebody on one of those touchdowns was amazing. And then you look at the Eagles. They arguably lost the best left tackle in football in Jason Peters. He went down. Was that the Monday night game? I think it was, against Washington. It was a Monday night game, and they put in Halapuli Vaitai, and he comes in there. No, he's not as good, or never will be as good, but they found a way to be resilient. On that offensive line unit, that is the most tied together unit in all of football. When someone like Peters goes down, what's said in that locker room and in that team, that room meeting, with that position room with you guys, saying, "Hey, man, we lost our guy, but we still got to find a way."
Well, to let a lot of people know out there, the offensive line is like a unit unto itself. Mm-hmm. Like it's the whole team, and then it's the offensive line. So when one of our brethren goes down, I mean, that it cuts you deep. But you also know that we're not the ones to ever make excuses. We only get called out when it's something bad. We never get adulation or anything like that. So it's literally, okay, man, we lost a good one, but we don't have time to slow down. You got to, whoever the next man up is, you got to slide in there and make things happen, because, man, right now you're one game from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no doubt the O-line, the most paranoid group on the field. There's absolutely,
because everyone is always looking. First of all, guys like you always say we hold. People say we're the least athletic bunch on the field, which I always tell people, to me, we're the most athletic, because we're dealing with guys who are lighter and they're having a good game if they get a sack.
Right.
One play out of 70 snaps.
They had a
good game.
Yeah.
So,
and you had a bad game.
And we don't rotate.
Right. Yeah.
We don't rotate. We're out there every snap.
Every day you're hustling.
One day, see, as you can tell, it's brewing in it's brewing in me. Like I have a lot of frustrations to get out because I don't think people really appreciate offensive linemen.
You only hear your name if you get a penalty.
Exactly.
Or the rarest of occasions you come in as to tackle eligible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Otherwise you toil in silence and you get slammed on every play. It really is stacked against you. As much as he stacks it against me, it's much more stacked against you. There's no question.
That's what they get for holding every play.
If they don't call it, it ain't holding.
That's
I can
right.
promise you that. Stick around, we got more. We got to talk about the AFC Championship game and whether or not we believe them young dogs in Jacksonville.
Boy, they are barking down in Jacksonville.
Can go in and do what they've got to do. We'll get to that. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Damien Woody in with us as we get set for Championship Sunday. And look, the reason I say it's the best single day of the year is because, look, everybody wants to win a Super Bowl. There's no question. But you got to get to a Super Bowl to have that opportunity. And the idea that you're one step away from getting to the ultimate prize sometimes I think carries more magnitude on that day. Plus you have 4 teams and 2 games as opposed to the Super Bowl, right? Because they don't want to go, they want to win, but you got to have the opportunity.
Right.
And so many people play their whole careers just for that one chance to get there. Is that the way you guys always looked at it?
Yeah, I looked at it as this is the weekend where a loss hurts the worst. Because at least if you make it to the Super Bowl, at least you have the experience.
Right.
You've gone through it.
Right.
But to be on the doorstep, knocking at the door, and the door slam closed on you, boy, that's a painful feeling. So this is a huge, huge weekend in football.
So if we look at this weekend from the AFC side, it really seems like when you talk about what are the ways to match up and possibly beat the New England Patriots, it certainly seems like this Jacksonville team has some boxes checked in that category, especially on their defensive side.
They got pass rushers in waves. We always talk about if you're going to beat New England, the number one priority is that you have to get Tom Brady off the spot. You got to rush him. They got guys that can rush, like really get after Tom Brady. Now, I will say this. The game of football is all about matchup. So, number one, who's going to match up with Gronk?
Right.
Who's going to match up with the Pats running backs, out of the backfield? Because that's a huge part of their game is matching up backs, the running backs on linebackers and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting to see what Jacksonville do as far as that is concerned. And you got to be able to score touchdowns. Can Blake Bortles continue to do what he did in Pittsburgh? Like, he really played well in Pittsburgh. You can't have 3. You got to score 7 if you're going to play New England and expect to beat them in Foxborough.
Well, the one thing that's interesting is we've talked about this. Everybody should be who they are. You can't change your stripes or Jaguars. Yeah, stripes, right? Yeah, leopards would change their spots. You can't change your stripes at this point. But the idea that they're barking, okay, Jalen Ramsey gets up there at that celebration at Everbank after winning in the divisional round and says, we're going to win next week, then we're going to the Super Bowl, we're going to win that week too. Your thoughts on them being that brash about it?
I love it personally because I was that type of player. I love talking. They're the youngest team in the league. Yeah. So it's almost one of those things where they don't know
what they don't know.
What they don't know. Yeah. This is a team that's perennially for the longest been picking in the top 5, and now all of a sudden this year they're in the AFC Championship game. So Jalen Ramsey is a really, really good player. They got a bunch of really good young players. And like you said, don't change who you are. Don't change who you are. I know you play in New England, but you have to be yourself. Be what got you to this point.
It would be something if they hadn't done it and all of a sudden started chirping, but they always do. So I'm with you. Just continue to do what you do. On that offensive side, New England does a great job of taking away what you want to do.
Right.
But it's no secret that when you play Jacksonville and they have the ball, they want to run Leonard Fournette.
Yes.
I mean, they're not saying Blake Bortles, we're going to throw him 50 times to have him beat you.
Right.
And yet, Leonard Fournette continues to rush for over 100 yards against these teams. New England has shown at times they're pretty susceptible against the run. Talk about that matchup of stopping that running game.
Well, that's a really good matchup because if there's one thing that's susceptible, New England's defense is the running game, especially on the edges. Yep. So I'm sure Jacksonville is going to try to scheme ways to take advantage of, of that area of New England's defense. But look, when you're playing up in Foxborough and, you're playing against Coach Belichick and they just have a way of scheming things to try to eliminate or tighten up those type of things. So I'm pretty sure the guys on defense, they're getting the message loud and clear from that defensive staff with New England. Stop the run first. Well, put the ball in Blake Bortles' hand. And if Blake Bortles beats us, then
congratulations to him.
Congratulations to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yep. But we want to make Blake Bortles beat us.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we talked about this on this show and also on NFL Live. The one thing that wasn't going to happen against Tennessee, the headline wouldn't be Derrick Henry runs way to past New England. Right. I mean, they held Derrick Henry, to 30-something yards in that game. Mm-hmm. So they're going to try and take Leonard Fournette out. And that ankle injury probably helps them a little bit too that he suffered in that game against Pittsburgh. Can Blake Bortles make the throw? He doesn't have to make a ton. Can he make enough throws? The throws he did against Pittsburgh, can he make those throws against New England? That's the whole thing, right?
That's tough. New England, if there's a strength in New England's defense, it's their secondary. Yep. They have some really good players on the back end.
Not early, they gelled. They gelled well during the season.
Absolutely. So Blake Bortles, he's not only going to have to make the right read, but he's going to have to make throws in tight windows, right? Because they're going to be plastered all over those Jaguars receivers. So, listen, he had a great game against Pittsburgh last week. Can he duplicate it again in Foxborough?
Yeah. That's a question. You don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. We saw that 3-game stretch in the regular season where he was lights out, and then, of course, last 2 weeks of the regular season in the game against Buffalo, he was terrible, and then he came back and had a really solid game against Pittsburgh. Big man. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, athlete.
Thanks, athlete.
That's right. That's right.
They'll give those rings to athletes. You got one of those nice shiny ones.
Listen, I always say, as far as ask Tim Hasselbeck about my athletic ability.
He's got ability. We got more ability to talk about things. Wow, hard out.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt. So pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too. And an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.